This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good morning, one and all. So, I'm Assistant Professor, Department of Respiratory Medicine. So, today we'll be talking about occupational lung diseases. Okay, so far we have covered separator lung diseases like bronchiectasis, lung aspiration pneumonia, lung abscess, and then bronchial asthma will be covered, and then COPD has been started. So we will go with occupational lung diseases, which are very important because every occupation is involved with some sort of lung disease. We classify them into major disease categories like first involving the upper respiratory tract. That is, it can be some because of some irritation of the upper respiratory tract irritation mainly. I'm audible, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So any sort of irritant gas, fumes or dust, for example, any smoke or during burning in any combustion or such sort of fumes may cause upper airway irritation. So lower airway disorders like occupational asthma because of sensitization. But occupational asthma again can be because of low molecular weight components and also high molecular weight. And what are the low molecular weight components? Okay, let's start like this. Low molecular weight components, high molecular weight components. First part is occupational asthma involving the lower airways. Then it can be industrial bronchitis, that is byssinosis, that is cotton dust. Cotton dust may lead to industrial bronchitis, that is called byssinosis. Then grain dust effects. And chronic bronchitis COPD is also called one of the diseases caused by occupational lung diseases. So acute inhalation and injury. When there is acute combustion or when there is fire or something or some kind of even the mosquito coils can cause acute inhalation injuries like toxic pneumonitis, metal fume fever, polymer fume fever, burning polymers, smoke inhalation. Okay. Then hypersensitivity pneumonitis. Hypersensitivity pneumonitis, it is not actually hypersensitivity reaction, but it is caused by bacteria, fungi, animal proteins. We'll discuss about it later. Then some causes of infectious diseases also can be caused because of any occupation. Like in case of silicosis, they're more prone for tuberculosis. Some viral infection, bacterial infections are also possible. What is pneumoconiasis? Pneumoconiasis, we'll talk about it later. And because of any mineral dust, what are the mineral dust? Asbestos, silica, coal, beryllium, cobalt, etc. And other malignancies can be lung cancer or mesothelioma, that is pleura mesothelial layer of the pleura involving sinonasal cancers, etc. So, in brief, occupational lung diseases can be divided into upper respiratory tract, lower respiratory tract. Upper respiratory tract is mainly because of irritation. Lower respiratory tract, you can talk about occupational asthma mainly, industrial bronchitis, that is byssinosis, then COPD, then acute inhalation injury, hypersensitivity pneumonitis, other infectious diseases, any infection can be possible, then pneumoconiosis because of mineral dust, and then malignancies. These are the broad classifications. Okay. Then going to histological classification of lung diseases. That is because of this occupation, various parts of histological patterns are present, like usual interstitial pneumonia or idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, non-specific interstitial pneumonia, acute interstitial pneumonitis, hypersensitivity pneumonitis, sarcoid-like granulomatous lesion. We'll talk about all of these things later on also during this class. Alveolar proteinosis and diffuse alveolar hemorrhage. One word for each pattern of a histological pattern. When the histological pattern is usual interstitial pneumonia, usually you see in case of asbestosis and radiation. When there is asbestos is there in the occupation or radiation is the culprit in the occupation. Then non-specific interstitial pneumonitis, it is because of organic antigens. Acute interstitial pneumonia, that is diffuse alveolar damage because of irritation. Because of so many inhalation gases NO2, SO2 formed during combustion. I told you hypersensitive pneumonitis because of organic antigens like former's lung, some metal and animal antigens, bird antigens, etc. Then sarcoid-like granulomatous lesions are seen in beryllium mainly. Then giant interstitial pneumonitis in cobalt. So alveolar proteinosis is mainly in silica. Okay, now we'll discuss about them later on in detail. So firstly, when it comes to occupational lung diseases, the most common occupations which you know are coal workers pneumoconiosis, isn't it? Then it is silicosis. Then asbestosis. These three are the more important. Then later on you have to talk about beryllium and then cobalt and then hypersensitivity pneumonitis, etc. So firstly, we'll talk about pneumoconiosis. So pneumoconiosis are pulmonary diseases caused by mineral dust inhalation in workplace. So it is the most important thing over here is mineral dust inhalation in workplace. The specific type of pneumoconiosis are named by the substances inhaled, that is silicosis and then asbestosis and anthracosis. Anthracosis is coal dust. Silicosis is silica, that is sand dust. Asbestosis is because of asbestos. Okay. Then we'll go to fibrogenic pneumoconiosis. True pneumoconiosis. Any mineral dust inhalation injury causing fibrosis in the lung or interstitium. That is called true pneumoconiosis. Causes are asbestosis, silicosis, hard metal disease, aluminium fibers, Shaver's disease, berylliosis, talcosis. Talc is the powder talc, and colon pneumoconiosis, coal workers pneumoconiosis. These are fibrogenic pneumoconiosis. Non-fibrogenic pneumoconiosis are benign. That is, they don't cause much pathology in the lung. They are not fibrosing. So the relative pathology is less. Causes are antimony, barium, boric acid, and manganese, iron, tin, titanium, bismuth. Okay. So next is pneumoconiosis, mainly the pathology. Development of pneumoconiosis, that is mineral dust injury, depends on the amount of dust retained in the lung and airways, the size, shape, and buoyancy of the particles, solubility, and physiochemical reactivity. The possible additional effects of other irritants, example, concomitant tobacco smoking. Okay. Pathogenesis will deal it in detail. The amount of dust retained in the lung is determined by amount of dust concentration in the surrounding air. For example, if there is more dust, when you go to a quarry, those persons who are doing actual sandblasting will have more pathology compared to those doing who are other duties. Okay, and duration of exposure. If there is long duration of exposure, it's also one of the pathology. But even if you withdraw the patient from the exposure, the pathology may even progress. It may not regress actually. The effectiveness of clearance mechanism. If the clearance mechanism, that is the cilia or mucociliary system, is not effective, then there will be again major problems like bronchitis. Then pathogenesis, the size, shape, and buoyancy of the particles. The character of the particles is also important. The most dangerous particles range from 1 to 5 micrometers in diameter because they may reach the terminal small airways and air sacs and settle in their linings. So the solubility, cytotoxicity of the particles modify the nature of pulmonary response. Smaller particles tend to cause acute lung injury, and larger particles resist dissolution and so may persist in the lung parenchyma for years, tend to evoke fibrosing collagenous pneumoconiosis. Pathogenesis, what happens? What is the most, why are all these things causing damage in the lung? Mainly because of pulmonary alveolar macrophages. This is a key cellular element in the initiation and perpetuation of lung injury and also fibrosis. The more reactive particles trigger the macrophages, pulmonary macrophages, to release a number of products that mediate an inflammatory response and initiate fibroblast proliferation and collagen deposition. The most important thing is alveolar macrophages, which leads to fibroblast proliferation and collagen deposition, which is causing fibrosis of the lung. Next, pathogenesis, the possible additional effect of other irritants like along with the silica dust if there is smoking, along with coal dust if there is smoking. It acts as a combined effect. Tobacco smoking worsens the effects of inhaled mineral dust. Okay. Then coal workers pneumoconiosis. Coal workers pneumoconiosis is due to inhalation of carbon particles. So one of the pneumoconiosis we have started with, that is inhalation of carbon particles, that is called coal workers pneumoconiosis, associated with coal mining industry. And what is anthracosilicosis? Carbon and also silica. Combination of these two dusts, mineral dust, will cause anthracosilicosis. So what is coal workers pneumoconiosis? Inhalation of carbon particles associated with coal mining industry. So coal workers pneumoconiosis, the spectrum of lung findings in coal workers is wide. There can be wide spectrum of pathologies. That is, for example, the patient can be asymptomatic. Even though he's working for 30-40 years, so they can be totally asymptomatic. That is called, but the lung will have anthracotic pigment, so it is called asymptomatic anthracosis. Simple coal workers pneumoconiosis with little or no pulmonary dysfunction. Simple coal workers pneumoconiosis is the second type. Then complicated coal workers pneumoconiosis, that is progressive massive fibrosis, where you find massive nodules. We'll discuss that. So what is anthracosis? Carbon particles, that is anthracotic pigment in the alveoli and interstitial macrophages in connective tissue and lymphatics and lung helium is anthracosis. So patients are generally asymptomatic. Even though there is anthracotic pigment, they are generally asymptomatic. Then we'll go backwards. Okay. So simple coal workers pneumoconiosis, coal macule. You have to remember the word coal macule. What is a coal macule? 1 to 2 mm in diameter. Simple coal workers pneumoconiosis, the pathognomonic feature is coal macule. Like it is a small nodule. It consists of 1 to 2 mm in diameter. That's why it's called coal macule. Macule consists of peribronchial carbon-laden macrophages and dilated terminally bronchial large coal nodules. So small amount of delicate network of collagen is also present. What is the radiological picture? What you see in the X-ray? Bilateral small parenchymal nodules, usually in the upper lobes. Okay. Then, what is complicated coal workers pneumoconiosis? There are multiple nodules, more than 2 centimeters in size, dark scars. It consists of microscopically dense collagen and carbon pigment with central necrosis. Sometimes present, sometimes absent, but most commonly there is central necrosis, and there are multiple size large macules with more than large nodules with more than 2 centimeters. Progression does not correlate with the amount of coal dust deposition in the lungs. Cigarette smoking increases the rate of deterioration of the pulmonary function. So, what is Kaplan's disease? First described in coal workers and may be seen in other pneumoconiosis like silicosis also. It is an immunopathological mechanism. Kaplan's disease is always associated with rheumatoid arthritis. In a patient with rheumatoid arthritis who is also exposed to coal, dust, or carbon particles will have both rheumatoid arthritis pattern and rheumatic nodules or nodules in the lung. That is rheumatoid arthritis plus pneumoconiosis. So this is called Kaplan syndrome. Kaplan's nodules are nodules surrounded by fibroblasts, monocytes, and collagen. Symptoms are suggestive of rheumatoid arthritis more than that of lung symptoms. Okay. So what do you see here? This is a large nodule with small micronodules. This is also a confluent nodule with small micronodules. So this is a form of progressive massive fibrosis or complicated coal workers pneumoconiosis. Okay. Coal workers pneumoconiosis. Clinical source is usually asymptomatic when there is anthracosis, and progressive dyspnea, cough, expectoration may be present. Progressive massive fibrosis, pulmonary dysfunction with restrictive pattern and pulmonary hypertension, cor pulmonale, progressive even if further exposure of the dust is prevented. There is chances of increased bronchitis, emphysema, COPD, and it is not associated with tuberculosis or carcinoma. Then management is diagnosis by presence of clinical features along with history. The most important thing is always in pneumoconiosis or any occupational lung diseases, the most and important thing that you have to elicit in any kind of history taking is always history. You have to ask them. Any history you have to correlate. History of exposure to coal dust of magnitude that is sufficient to cause the disease. Then imaging, PFT, sputum examination, etc. Treatment is no specific treatment. Removal of further exposure is important. Treat underlying airway disease. Like if there is bronchoconstriction, you have to do bronchodilation, like that. Then silicosis. Silicosis is silica is silicon dioxide, oxide of silicon. Chemical formula is SiO2. So silicon dioxide is most abundant mineral on earth. Silicosis also called Grinder's disease and Potter's rot. Grinder's disease. Okay, that is silicosis. Is a form of occupational lung disease caused by inhalation of silica, crystalline silica dust, and is marked by inflammation and scarring in forms of nodular lesions in the upper lobes of the lung. Okay, this is also upper lobes of the lung. It is found in sand, many rocks such as granite, sandstone, flint, slate, etc. And in some coal and metallic ores also. People working in cutting, breaking, crushing, drilling, grinding, and abrasive blasting of these materials may produce fine silica dust, which is more dangerous. The finer the particle, the more dangerous. Silicosis caused by sand blasting. What is sand blasting? When compressed air at high pressure is used to blow fine sand or other abrasive materials through hardened spray nozzle. The abrasive particles quickly eat away whatever they are directed at and leaving a clean and matte surface. So this is sand blasting. Diseases associated with exposure to silica dust, that is silicosis. Types of various diseases involved in silicosis are chronic silicosis, accelerated silicosis, then again acute silicosis, COPD. So chronic silicosis, we again divided it into simple and complicated. Okay, so chronic, that is simple or complicated, then again accelerated, then acute, and COPD. So other diseases apart from these are lung cancer, mycobacterial infection, immune related diseases. Okay, so we'll come to silicosis, which is most prevalent occupational disease in the world. The induction period between the initial silica exposure and development of radiologically detectable nodular silicosis is usually more than 10 years. Usually, the initial induction period is more than 10 years. Shorter induction period are associated with heavy exposure, and acute silicosis may develop within 6 months to 2 years following massive silica exposure. For example, sandblasting. 6 months to 2 years. Usually, induction period is more than 10 years. But when there is heavy exposure or very finer particles, the presentation can be within 6 months to 2 years. So 3 types of silicosis again. Simple silicosis and complicated silicosis. So most common form of simple chronic silicosis. After long-term exposure, that is 10 to 20 years, at low amounts of silica. That is important. When there is low amount of exposure to silica for a prolonged period, that is 10 to 20 years, that is simple silicosis. Nodules of chronic inflammation and scarring form in the lung and chest lymph nodes. Patients often are asymptomatic. So they are seen for other reasons. Again, it is divided into simple and complicated. Then again, accelerated silicosis. So occurs after exposure to large amount of silica over a short period of time, that is 5 to 10 years. That is a large amount in short period of time, that is 5 to 10 years. Then again, inflammation, scarring, and symptoms progress faster in accelerated silicosis. Patients have symptoms, especially shortness of breath. So what is acute? We have talked about chronic. which is again divided into simple and complicated. Then again accelerated, that is large amount of exposure in very short period of time, like 5 to 10 years. And acute silicosis is very short term exposure to very large amount of fine silica dust. Very short term exposure to very large amount of very fine silica dust. The lung becomes very inflated, very inflamed, causing severe shortness of breath and low blood oxygen levels. So this is very dangerous. So what are the clinical features of silicosis? The clinical features mainly are patient is asymptomatic and patient is breathless, first noted during exertion and later on at rest as a large working reserve of the lung is diminished. A patient with chronic silicosis may present with symptoms for assessment of abnormal chest radiograph. Cough, sputum production are common symptoms and usually related to chronic bronchitis. Clubbing is also not a feature of silicosis. Patients with silicosis are particularly susceptible to tuberculosis infection. This is most important. Patients with silicosis always present with tuberculosis infection. This is known as silicotuberculosis. The reason for increased risk, that is 10 to 30 folds increased incidence, is not well understood. This is thought to be because of silica damages the pulmonary macrophages, inhibiting their ability to kill the mycobacteria. So we need macrophages for defense against the mycobacterial infections. When the silica damages these macrophages, there will be replication of mycobacterium tuberculosis and there will not be any containment. So there will be large distribution and foci will be distributed all over and leading to mycobacterial infection. So diagnosis of silicosis. How do you diagnose? Most important thing always is in occupational lung disease is history. You have to take a clear-cut history. Then chest imaging. What do you see? Chest imaging shows opacity consistent with silicosis. Absence of another diagnosis is also more important. Then pulmonary function tests and lung biopsies very rarely required. Then silicosis can be misdiagnosed. Silica can mimic so many other pathologies like sarcoidosis, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, lung cancer, and also, so it is always important to take correct history. So three main radiographic presentations of silicosis are simple silicosis, progressive massive fibrosis, and silicoproteinosis. So simple silicosis refers to profusion of small, less than 10 mm in diameter nodules and opacities, nodular opacity. The nodules are generally round but can be irregular and distributed predominantly in the upper lung zones. These are less than 10 mm and upper zone involvement randomly distributed. So this is actually the lymph node. Hilar, this is hilar lymph nodes with, what do you see? Calcification along the borders of the lymph nodes. This is called eggshell calcification pattern, which is seen in silicosis. Eggshell calcification almost exclusively silicosis. Then coming to progressive massive fibrosis or conglomerate silicosis occurs when small opacities these small opacities gradually enlarge and coalesce to form larger upper mid-zone opacities more than 10 mm in diameter. The hilar retracted upwards in association with upper lobe fibrosis and lower lobe hyperinflation. So these are small nodules, actually CT of the CT chest showing small multiple nodules, like all these things are small multiple nodules in the upper lobes, okay? Subpleural location also. This X-ray is progressive massive fibrosis, that is small nodules coalesce together to form a large nodule. Okay. Silicoproteinosis. Silicoproteinosis occurs following overwhelming exposure to respirable crystalline silica over a short time and is a radiographic hallmark of acute silicosis. The chest radiograph demonstrates bibasilar alveolar filling pattern without surrounding opacities and lymph node calcification. So treatment. Silicosis. Silicosis is an irreversible condition with no cure. Treatment options currently focus on alleviating the symptoms and preventing complications. the treatment of all forms of silicosis should be directed towards control of mycobacterial diseases. So lung lavage and transplantation can be required sometimes. And prevention is the key for silicosis. That is, proper preventive equipment should be used to avoid the silica dust. So next, after cold workers pneumoconiosis, silicosis will go to asbestos. So pulmonary parenchymal fibrosis develops mostly in the bases. So general occurs with more than 10 years exposure, but latency period can be more than 30 years in case of asbestosis. Smoking has a synergistic effect with asbestosis in development of lung cancer. Clinically is indistinguishable from idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. So associated lung carcinoma, squamous and adenocarcinoma, not small and large carcinoma. So first we will talk about what is asbestosis. Asbestosis is fibrous hydrated magnesium silicate with more than 3,000 commercial uses due to its indestructible nature, fire resistance and spinnability. Fireproof textiles, it is used in fireproof textiles, then insulation of boilers, pipes, papers used in papers, paints, especially the paints, the cloth, the tape, filters, wire insulation, and more recently asbestos has been used in cement pipes and in friction materials including brake lining and roofing and floor products. So these are the usually asbestos related diseases. What are benign, what are malignancy? Malignancy are two types: malignant mesothelioma and bronchogenic carcinoma. Benign are pleural diseases, that is plaque, diffuse pleural thickening, effusion, malignant asbestos pleural effusion, and calcification. And parenchymal diseases is asbestosis, that is parenchymal fibrosis caused by asbestos inhalation, round atelectasis, benign fibrotic masses, transpulmonary bands. Okay, so what are the manifestations? We'll discuss in detail. What are pleural plaques? Most common, they are focal, irregular, raised white lesions. Focal, irregular, raised white lesions found on the parietal and rarely on the visceral pleura. Commonly occur in lateral and posterior mid-lung zones, along the rib contours and diaphragm also. Histologically, there is a positive cell extensive collagen fibrosis, etc. And usually bilateral and remains stable over months. There is no treatment, observation with periodic chest X-ray. When you see a pleural plaque on a chest radiograph, which is often bilateral, so you have to think in terms of asbestosis. You have to ask the history of asbestosis. So exposure. But when it is unilateral, in countries like India, we consider it to be tuberculosis. So this is the pleural plaque, which is bilateral. So it is one of the manifestation of asbestos. So diffuse pleural thickening, thick white peel which can encase significant pleural structures. Diffuse pleural thickening or fibrosis is a disease of visceral pleura. Develops either due to confluence of pleural plaques due to extension of subpleural fibrosis or due to fibrotic resolution of benign pleural effusion. So it is asymptomatic and no specific therapy is needed. Round atelectasis is a rare complication. It is caused by scarring of viscera and parietal pleura and the adjacent lung with the pleural reaction folding over on itself. So there is scarring of visceral parietal pleura and which leads to adjacent pleura to be collapsed and causing folding on itself along with the pleural thickening. That is called round atelectasis. Collapse of the adjacent lung with pleural where there is scarring of visceral and parietal pleura. So this is a chest radiograph showing pleural thickening with the collapse of the left lower lobe. So when we see this in the CT, there is left lower lobe minimal effusion with calcification of the pleura and also pleural thickening and also round nodule, which is nothing but round atelectasis where you see in asbestosis. So malignancies, mesothelioma, lung cancer. Malignant mesothelioma are associated 80% of the time with asbestos exposure and latency period is as long as 40 years. Unlike in asbestosis, it is not associated smoking and tends to be rapidly fatal. Lung cancer, besides smoking tobacco, asbestos exposure has been linked with increased incidence of lung cancer. Adenocarcinoma is the most common. So interstitial pneumonitis and fibrosis can be caused, and macrophage accumulation is a prominent feature of the cellularity. And prevalence of parenchymal asbestosis among asbestos workers increases as the length of employment increases. Depending on the duration and intensity of exposure, the latency period for the development of symptoms can be varying from 1 decade, that is 10 years, to 20 to 30 decades, that is 20 to 30 years. Symptoms are dyspnea, cough, rales, then trails, that is bilateral crux in the posterior lung bases. Bilateral diffuse reticular nodular pattern can be also seen. Then CT shows various patterns, like apart from round atelectasis, pleural plaques and everything, nodules, curvilinear subpleural lines, increased intralobular septa, and dependent opacities, parenchymal bands and core structure, and swimming. This is the swimming period of So diagnosis, present of symptoms along with history is most important. So duration, onset, type and intensity of exposure, and chest X-ray, CT and PFT are important. Bronchoscopy is most important. Just remember these words. Coated asbestos fibers. When you do biopsy of ball, the presence of coated asbestos fibers is called also called asbestos bodies. Presence of more than one coated asbestos fiber has been cited as a necessary criterion for pathological diagnosis of asbestosis. So treatment is there is no specific treatment. Medical surveillance is recommended due to risk of lung cancer and malignancy. So beryllium, we'll talk about. It's a lightweight metal. Exposure in industry, manufacturing, alloys, ceramics, and high technology electronics and nuclear reactors. And beryllium may produce acute pneumonitis, chronic granulomatous inflammatory disease like sarcoidosis, that is sarcoid-like nodules may be present in berylliosis, and then lung cancer. Okay. So important clinical features are same: cough, chest pain, arthralgia, fatigue, and weight loss. And beryllium lymphocyte proliferation test. Its blood is drawn, and in the lab, the WBCs are separated from the rest of the blood cells and then mixed with beryllium solution. If the immune system is sensitized to beryllium, the cells will multiply and produce abnormal beryllium lymphocyte proliferation test result. In normal individual, cells will not multiply. So in FOB, biopsy and transbronchial lung biopsy may be needed. Biopsy shows non-caseating granulomas, that is sarcoid-like granulomas. Diagnosis is mainly because of history of exposure to beryllium should be asked, and then beryllium lymphocyte proliferation test must be positive, and beryllium, then again, you have to, most important step is complete cessation of further exposure to beryllium, and corticosteroid therapy has been recommended, but long-term steroid therapy is believed to alter the goals and disease. Then what is byssinosis? Byssinosis is organic dust. That is, till now we have talked about all the mineral dusts. So now we are talking about organic dust causing lung pathology. Byssinosis, that is, we have finished the pneumoconiosis part. We are talking about organic dust part. That is, byssinosis is brown lung disease caused by inhalation of cotton dust, flax, hemp, etc. It is non-immune mediated. No sensitization is required. So it is also called Monday morning fever because the chest tightness or the symptoms are seen in the first day of the work week and will slowly increase, including more days. So treatment is early on focus on reversing obstructive lung disease with antihistaminic bronchodilators, removing of causative agents. So how do you diagnose an occupational asthma? What is occupational asthma? When there is physician diagnosis of asthma, onset of asthma after entering the workplace. Association between symptoms of asthma and work. One of the following. That is, so when you have to name it as occupational asthma, you should have definite occupational asthma requires A, B, C, and D. D can be either 2, 3, 4, or 5. What is the 2? work-related changes in FE1 or PEF. So work-related changes in bronchial responsiveness, progressive response to specific inhalational challenge test, onset of asthma with clear association with a symptomatic exposure to an inhaled irritant agent in the workplace. So if it is difficult to remember all these things, just remember like if there should be a physician diagnosis of asthma, the patient should be diagnosed as asthma. First thing. Second thing is the asthma should be the onset of asthma should be only after entering the workplace. Before that, before working in that place, the patient is totally normal. Then third thing is association between the symptoms of asthma and work. When he is having a vacation or when he is day off, he is totally fine. When he is working, he is having symptoms. So this is also important. Then one more thing, the other definite criteria for calling it as definitive asthma is the patient should have changes in FE1 or PEF or work-related changes in bronchial responsiveness. Positive response to specific inhalation challenge test. Specific, that is whatever occupation he is working with. Onset of asthma with a clear association with symptomatic exposure to an inhaled irritant agent in the workplace. Okay, we'll see to it. So occupational asthma is again caused, it can be divided into compounds causing occupational asthma with high molecular weight and low molecular weight. High molecular weight are animal products like animal handlers, veterinarians, seafoods, insects, and plants, biological enzymes, latex, gums, etc. The most important thing is animal products. Then the latex workers, latex rubber extract, and latex healthcare workers having glove makers, etc., having the pathology, and gums. So low molecular weight are diisocyanate, anhydrates, wood dust, flux, that is aluminum solders and electronic workers. So that is also important. So then fixative, hospital workers, etc. These are all the products causing occupational asthma. So in history, you have to ask with what occupation is doing. That is very important thing. So coming to hypersensitivity and treatment of occupational asthma is nothing but because it is similar to asthma presentation, you have to treat with bronchodilators, and sometimes steroids. Then hypersensitivity pneumonitis. The immune-mediated granulomatous inflammatory reaction to organic antigens in alveoli and in respiratory bronchioles, also called extrinsic allergic alveolitis. It is an immune-mediated granulomatous inflammatory reaction to what is this called? Organic antigen. So treatment and etiology are often in the history. Diagnosis and etiology. So there are various forms of hypersensitivity pneumonitis, various organic antigens causing hypersensitivity pneumonitis. But you need not remember everything, but most importantly, what is Farmer's lung disease? If there is a question like Farmer's lung disease, it is a form of hypersensitivity disorder, and antigen source is moldy hay. The antigen present in this moldy hay is a fungus, that is Thermophilic actinomycetes, Mycospora pini, and Aspergillus species. And what is bagasosis? Moldy sugarcane. So thermophilic actinomycetes, thermophilic saccari, and vulgaris. Mushroom workers disease, tuberosis, malt workers disease, maple bug disease, sequiosis, soybean disease, wood pulp workers disease, wood dust, uh, compost lung, and cheese workers, etc. So even coffee workers disease and then tobacco workers disease, potato riddler's lung, all these are forms of hypersensitivity pneumonitis. So symptoms are usually flu-like cough, high fever, chills, dyspnea, chest tightness, malaise, myalgia 4 to 8 hours after exposure. In case of chronic disease, there is dyspnea, sputum production, fatigue, anorexia, weight loss. So there are two types again hypersensitivity reaction: acute, actually three types: acute, subacute, and chronic. We'll talk about acute and chronic. Acute reaction, there will be flu-like illness, febrile, tachypnea, cough, chest tightness, transient hypoxia, leukocytosis, hypoxemia. Then chest X-ray shows small nodular opacities, patchy infiltrates, etc. So chronic consists of weight loss, fever, fatigue, and bilateral crepe can be here, and chest X-ray, reticular nodular pattern, honeycombing with lung destruction. Okay. Then clinical findings are same: dyspnea, cyanosis, etc. And chest X-ray, multiple small or diffuse nodules and pulmonary fibrosis pattern. A HRCT chest may show ground glass appearance with central lobular nodules. Remember the word ground glass appearance with central lobular nodules. And lung, then the other tests are BAL, SMART, lymphocytosis, T helper cells and T suppressor cells are decreased. This is bird fancier's disease. It is a type of hypersensitive pneumonitis. You can see the reticular nodular pattern with fibrosis also. Okay. So this is CT. This is prone CT showing birth progressive dyspnea and diffuse nodular radiodensities in the lower lobes and areas of ground glass opacities. Nodular and this is ground glassing actually in the lower lobes. This is a not a supine CT. This is a prone CT. Okay. Then treatment is only you have to remove from the offending antigen. That is the most important thing in any case of occupational disease. You have to remove the patient from the offending antigen, and short course of corticosteroids may be helpful in acute disease. Okay, thank you.
Ma water.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Any doubts? Anybody can respond actually if you have any doubts. Okay, then we'll end the class, okay?